when you cut it and when you see the inner view of the piston, you will find that the distance between the lower surface of the cylinder head till the end, this surface is called as piston barrel. This is called as piston barrel. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Fine. So piston barrel, if you see here, the inner surface, the inner view, okay, the inner edge of the piston head till the end is called as piston barrel. In addition to that, there is a terminology called as land. There are different types of land. You have, the land between the two grooves, like this, okay, and also you have the land below the piston head. So the land between the first ring and the head of the piston is called as top land. The surface between the piston head and the first groove is called as top land, and these are all consecutive lands between the two grooves. So here this slot will be called as grooves, whereas the surface between the two grooves will be called as land. So you can call it as ring land. You can call it as ring land. Okay. Then, in order to incorporate and fix and restrict the lateral movement of the piston pin, you use a locking device called as circlip. This circlip basically ensures the lateral movement. Okay. And this gudgeon pin or piston pin, depending upon the application, they are classified into two categories called as semi-floating type, and full floating type. Now, is anyone having a question as to what is the difference between full floating and semi-floating? Please, anyone ask me.
Please explain, sir. नहीं समझा semi floating full floating.
Sorry, who is this?
नहीं मालूम डिफरेंस क्या है?
नहीं मालूम क्या है वो.
नहीं है, जो क्वेश्चन पूछ रहा है वो महारथी कौन है?
वेदांत.
अच्छा, वेदांत. Okay. So Vedant, the difference between full floating and semi-floating gudgeon pin is this. See, when you are using a full floating gudgeon pin, the full floating gudgeon pin will have relative motion between the piston and the gudgeon pin. Here, this is the movement number 1 here. Okay, so the movement will take place between the boss and the gudgeon pin here and here, as well as the movement will also take place between the gudgeon pin and the connecting rod, because you are going to have the connecting rod here. Okay, so this is going to be the connecting rod here. So the full floating gudgeon pin is going to have motion between the boss part of the piston and gudgeon pin and the piston pin, as well as the connecting rod. Whereas in case of semi-floating type, there are two semi-floating type. In one type, you will have the movement between the piston and the pin restricted with the help of grub screw here and here, and the movement will be only provided between the connecting rod and the piston pin. This is one type of semi-floating. That means this motion will be restricted. Okay. Whereas in the second type, you will have this motion between the piston and connecting rod restricted with the help of grub screw, and the movement will be taking place between the boss and the gudgeon pin. This is called a semi-floating type. Is it okay?
Okay, sir. Okay, understood.
Yes, sir.
Iram Pathan.
Sir, please explain full floating type.
Which one? Full floating type? Full floating type?
Yes, sir.
Sir, please explain full floating type.
Okay, no problem.
Yes, sir.
Okay, but एक minute. See what I'm saying? The full floating type of pin is one in which the motion, okay, the lateral motion between the gudgeon pin and the boss, as well as the connecting rod and the pin is allowed, because here you are going to have the connecting rod fixed. Okay, so the motion between the connecting rod as well as the pin is allowed between both the elements here. On the contrary, in semi-floating type, either the movement is provided between the connecting rod and gudgeon pin, or between the piston and gudgeon pin. Okay.
Okay, sir. Fine.
Thank you so much.
सर एक क्वेश्चन है
Who is this?
सर अली अकबर
Ali Akbar.
सर सेमी फ्लोटिंग में सिर्फ ग्रब स्क्रू वाला ही होता है क्या प्रेस
Bolt
फिट
भी
भी हो
होता है
सकता है ना शायद
ग्रब स्क्रू भी होता है, छोटा सा बोल्ट भी होता है. ओके,
प्रेस फिट
प्रेस फिट होगा तो नहीं होगा ना बेटा, बिकॉज प्रेस फिट अगर हो गया, अगर आप प्रेस फिट करोगे तो फिर आपको देखो अभी ये जो मोमेंट है. अच्छा, तुम इसकी बात कर रहे हो ना सेमी फ्लोटिंग में?
हाँ
तो ठीक है ना, नो प्रॉब्लम, बिकॉज योर मेन इंटेंशन इज व्हाट? योर मेन इंटेंशन इज टू रिस्ट्रिक्ट मोशन आइदर हियर, ओके, और हियर. तो यू आर गोइंग टू प्रोवाइड हियर क्लियरेंस फिट. ओके, लाइक सपोज आपको अगर सेमी फ्लोटिंग में ये वाला इसको प्रेस फिट करना है सपोज, तो हियर okay, you need to have this thing, clearance fit. But the problem with press fit is that you need to, okay, you will basically intending to damage this part. That is why whatever mostly I have seen is basically this one, one with the grub screw, because the dismantling is very easy rather than press fitting. But the intended motion can be obtained by press fitting also.
ओके सर. एक और क्वेश्चन है. अगर सेमी फ्लोटिंग में हमें ये फिक्स रहता है, पिस्टन और गजन पिन जब फिक्स रहता है, तो स्मॉल एंड को लुब्रिकेशन कहाँ से मिलता है कनेक्टिंग रॉड पे?
Okay, good question. Because in the connecting rod, because of the pressure lubrication system, something like this, there is a barrel inside there is a hole. Okay. There is a hole. Abhi yahan par you are going to have the gudgeon pin. So because of the pressure, the oil will be moving up, and it will be reaching up to this particular point, and it will lubricate the gudgeon pin. Because of the pressure lubrication, okay, you have your oil moving into this gallery which is provided in the connecting rod. Okay, so this oil will be reaching to the small end of the connecting rod, and it will ensure the lubrication.
Okay, sir, समझ गया.
Okay, next. Then
Sir, I have one question, sir.
Who is this? Fahad.
Sir, Fahad, Syed Fahad.
हाँ.
Sir, if there is relative motion between the pin and the boss, sir, so there is no linear motion of the piston, so we are losing energy over there, na?
No. Arey yaar, see, the amount of power produced is tremendous, and what is basically एनर्जी तो यहाँ पर लूज ही नहीं हो रहा. हम लोग यहाँ पर खाली क्या कर रहे हैं, पिस्टन का जो अपना जो इसका जो गजन पिन का जो लेटरल मूवमेंट है उसको रिस्ट्रिक्ट करने के लिए वैसे भी मेरे पास सर क्लिप है. ओके, यहाँ पर
Yes, sir.
हाँ, तो दैट इज व्हाई आई एम प्रोवाइडिंग सर क्लिप ओवर देयर इन ऑर्डर टू रिस्ट्रिक्ट दिस. और इतना थोड़ी फ्री मूवमेंट है कि पूरा ऐसा वहां पर भौचाल आने वाला है. Clearance is very small. It is in terms of 0.0375 millimeter, 0.0375. Such a small clearance, and that is maintained only to avoid the piston seizing. Understand?
Okay, sir.
And see, and we are getting very tremendous amount of power produced. What this is basically getting, no, because of the frictional moment power is very small, almost negligible.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
So let's come to the point. So whenever you are designing the piston, you should have following points, such as the piston material or the piston should have sufficient strength. It should have sufficient strength to withstand the force due to the combustion of fuel, and also the inertial force due to the reciprocating part. It should also have sufficient rigidity to withstand the thermal and the mechanical distortion. Thermal distortion means because of the combustion, and the mechanical distortion in the form of the forces produced. It should also have adequate capacity to dissipate heat, because see, this is acting as a closed system. Although the lower layer is moving, but it is acting as a closed system. So you need to dissipate a considerable amount of heat. Although heat must be there, but too much amount of heat will result into the piston seizure. So that is why the important characteristic, the important requirement of the piston material that it should have the heat dissipation quality. Next, it should also have the minimum weight to reduce the inertial forces. Then it should also form an efficient sealing to prevent the leakage of the flue gases from the combustion chamber to the crankcase. Okay, that is called as a blow-by. Okay, so blow-by should not be there. It should also have sufficient bearing area to take care of the side thrust and prevent the undue wear and tear. Okay, and it should finally result into the noiseless operation. Okay, so these are the few requirements. I may be asking you sometime in the form of polling, in the form of question. Okay, so be just try to remember all these points. So once again, if you go through all these points, you come to know that the piston should have sufficient strength, it should have sufficient rigidity, it should have adequate heat dissipation capacity, it should have minimum weight, it should provide sealing, it should provide leakage, and it should have sufficient bearing area, as well as it should provide noiseless operation. Okay, next, it should provide adequate support for the piston pin which connects the small end of the connecting rod. See here what it means, that the design of the piston should be such that there is sufficient support must be there for the connecting rod in order to have the fail-safe design of the connecting rod and piston. Okay. Now let's have next, piston material. The commonly used material for the IC engine is cast iron, or it is aluminum alloy. Cast iron pistons are moderately used. They are used for moderately rated engines. Okay, now they are classifying as to what is meant by moderately rated and highly rated engines, etc. With see, now the moderately rated engines are those in which the piston speed is 6 meters per second. It is below 6 meters per second, whereas the aluminum alloy pistons are used for highly rated engines where the piston speed is above 6 meters per second. Now, compared to the cast iron, the main advantage of the aluminum alloy piston is that they are light in weight and they are having high thermal conductivity. Okay. On the contrary, the cast iron pistons are good in compressive strength. Aluminum alloy pistons are either cast or forged. This is basically the manufacturing process. So these alloy pistons, these aluminum alloy pistons are normally either cast manufactured or forged manufactured. Okay, so remember, in short, we use two different types of material in the form of cast iron and in the form of aluminum alloy. Okay. Next, let's start with the design of piston. When I'm saying design a piston, I mean to say that we need to design the thickness of the piston head. We need to design the piston ribs and cup. We need to design the piston rings, piston barrel, piston skirt, and the piston pin. So the design of the piston comprises of all these 6 steps. Mind you, the design of piston further based on whether you are using strength criteria or heat dissipation criteria. Now what you have to do is, while designing the piston, you have to try with both the criteria, strength criteria and the heat dissipation or the thermal criteria, and whichever gives you higher value, you need to select that as a thickness of piston and go further. I hope this point is clear. So we are going to have the design of piston will be based on these 6 steps. Now, first one, design of piston head, thickness of piston head. See, when I'm designing the piston head, I mean to say I'm designing this thickness. I'm designing this particular thickness. I'm designing basically this particular thickness. Okay, TH. Mind you, this is a flat head type of piston. This is a cup type of piston. While designing piston head, when we use the strength criteria, this criteria was proposed by Mr. Grashof. That is why this formula is also known as Grashof formula. And Mr. Grashof said that the strength equation for designing the thickness of piston head is TH is equal to D times under root of K times P max by sigma P, where K is a constant whose value is coming out to be 3/16. P max is maximum gas pressure and sigma B is a permissible bending stress. Okay. So from this formula directly, you will be able to calculate the thickness of the piston head, provided you know diameter of the piston, you know the diameter, the maximum gas pressure and the bending stress. Now, since the material selected for the piston is cast iron, for example, then the ultimate distance will be the criteria. Then after getting the value of ultimate distance from the data book and assuming suitable factor of safety around 1 to 2 to 3, okay, we can calculate the bending stress. The bending stress is nothing but the allowable tensile stress, which is equal to the bending stress. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Next, when the sufficient data is not given for the previous calculation, okay, to calculate the thickness of the piston head, then what we can do, we can assume for gray cast iron, we can assume a bending stress of around 35 to 40 megapascal, whereas for aluminum alloy, we can assume somewhere around 50 to 90 megapascal. Okay, when the sufficient data is not given. Otherwise, if the material is specified and if sufficient information is given in the form of factor of safety and all, we can directly calculate from the formula sigma B is equal to sigma UT upon FOS. But if it is not given, we can directly assume the value of bending stress 35 to 40 for the cast iron and 50 to 90 for aluminum alloy. When information about the gas pressure is not given, okay, we can assume the average value of maximum gas pressure around 4 to 5 megapascal, although the maximum gas pressure may rise up to 8 megapascal in some, like in the cases, okay, when the combustion is complete, so maximum gas pressure may rise up to 8 megapascal. But for all the calculation purpose, we can assume the gas pressure somewhere between 4 to 5 megapascal. Okay. So this is basically giving you idea about the strength consideration. This equation is very, very important, may be useful in the gate preparation also. In addition to that, Mr. Held and Femery, these are the two researchers. These two gentlemen propose an empirical formula to calculate the thickness of piston head, which says that the thickness should be equal to 0.032 D plus 1.5 millimeter. Okay. So this empirical formula can also be used in order to determine the thickness of cylinder head. Okay. If you want to verify the thickness obtained by both the criteria, thermal as well as strength criteria. Next, the thickness of the piston head can be calculated, can be determined by the thermal consideration by using this particular formula. This says that TH is equal to H over 12.56 times K times TC minus TE. Here, if this is the piston, for example, here you have the center of the piston, here you have the end of the piston. Certainly because of the combustion gases being, okay, the combustion takes place ideally at the center. That is why the temperature at this point will be more than the temperature at this point. Okay, this is TE. So TC is nothing but the temperature at the center of the piston. TE is nothing but the temperature at the end of the piston. So in this case, H is nothing but the amount of heat conducted through the piston. K is the thermal conductivity constant. TC is the temperature at the center of the piston head. TE is the temperature at the end or at the edges. Now, depending upon whether you are using the cast iron or aluminum alloy, you need to select a suitable factor, suitable thermal conductivity factor as 46.6 watts per meter per degree centigrade for cast iron and 175 for aluminum alloy, because mind you, the thermal conductivity of the aluminum alloy is good. On the other hand, when you are using cast iron, the temperature between the center and the edge should be taken as 220 degrees centigrade. Okay, whereas for aluminum alloy, this should be taken as 75 degrees centigrade. After assuming all these values into the formula, you can calculate the thickness TH. Mind you, but H, which is nothing but the heat conducted by the piston, okay, it is calculated by this formula. H is equal to C time SCV time N time BP, where C is called as the ratio of heat absorbed by the piston to the total heat developed in the cylinder. Normally, this value is assumed as 5%. Okay, normally it is assumed that 5% of the heat is absorbed by the piston, okay, compared to whatever total heat is developed. That is why the value of C is assumed as 0.05. HCV is nothing but the higher calorific value. The next is higher calorific value. For diesel, it can be taken as 44,000 kilojoule per kg. For petrol, it can be taken as 47,000 kilojoule per kg. Okay, so these are the SCVs. Then the average fuel consumption, okay, for the diesel engine is calculated as around somewhere 0.242, 0.3 kg per kilowatt per hour. So this kg per kilowatt per hour is converted into second. That is why this particular value is converted into 60 by 60. The step number 2, as the piston ribs and cup. See, ribs as you know very well, in engineering drawing, in machine drawing, and as a fundamental learning, we have learned that ribs are basically used to support the strength, and in order to provide more and more strength to the structure. Okay, so in this case, the ribs is also decided whether the piston must have ribs or not. That is basically decided depending upon, okay, the thickness of the piston head. I mean, the what TH we have found from the previous equation, from the previous understanding, that will basically decide whether the ribs are required or not. So the thumb rule for piston rib is that whenever the thickness of the piston head is less or up to 6 millimeter, that means whenever TH is less than or equal to 6 millimeter, then ribs are not required. Okay, because this is going to be for the small piston. Whereas whenever the thickness of the piston head is more than 6 millimeter, then the ribs are need to be provided. Okay, so this is the criteria. So what is the criteria once again? The thickness of the piston head is the criteria. Okay, so 6 millimeter is the threshold value. When it is up to 6 millimeter, no ribs are required. But when the thickness of the head is more than 6 millimeter, we need to provide the ribs. Now, how many ribs are provided? How many ribs are need to be provided? The general ribs, okay, which are provided in the inner periphery of the piston is around 4 to 6. Okay, the inner periphery, the inner feature of the piston will have 4 to 6 number of piston ribs. Mind you, this ribs not only provide the rigidity and strength to prevent the distortion, but they also help in dissipating the large amount of combustion heat from the piston head to the piston ring. Why? Because they will be integrated, they will be connected to the inner surface, okay, and nearer to the boss and the connecting rod. That is why they will basically also take part in the heat dissipation. So they also take large amount of heat. Okay, is it okay? So one criteria we understood, that one thumb rule we understood, that TH should be, if the TH is less than or equal to 6 millimeter, then no ribs are required. When the thickness of head is very more than 6 millimeter, then the ribs are required. The 4 or 6 number of ribs are provided. Then how much should be the dimension? How much should be the thickness? The thickness should be around 1/3 to 1/2 of the thickness of head. This is the criteria. The thickness of the rib should be equal to 1/3 to 1/5. That is around 35% to 50% of the thickness of head. This is the criteria. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So after deciding about the piston ribs, the next criteria, the next parameter to be designed is piston cup. See whether the piston would be of flat head as seen in the first figure like this, or it is going to be like a flat headed, something like this. It should be, that is basically decided on the basis of this criteria. See, sometimes we need to provide additional space for the combustion chamber. Okay, and that is basically done by providing a little radial cup. So the criteria for providing the cup is whenever the L/D ratio is up to 1.5, then a cup is required. Okay, so whenever the L/D ratio is less than or up to 1.5, the cup is required. Whereas when the L/D ratio is more than 1.5, no cup is required. Okay, so this is the criteria for providing the cup. You understand well? Okay. Then what should be this radius? See, suppose when you decide to provide the radius here, then what should be this radius? This radius should be equals to almost 70% of the diameter of piston. Okay, so this is the criteria now for providing the cup on the piston. ठीक है. Once the cup is designed, we need to go for designing the piston ring material. We need to design the piston rings, for which these are the different materials given for the selection. Okay, the piston rings are basically made up of cast iron. They are made up of malleable cast iron. They are made up of spheroidal cast iron, etc. And these are the various properties, okay, which you can go through later on from the book, from the data book. So, piston ring, when you design, you need to remember a few terminology, few nomenclature. Okay, first of all, if you look at this particular thickness, the thickness here, this is called thickness. Okay, this is called as C. It is given as radial thickness, radial wall thickness. And the thickness or the width, this is basically called as axial thickness, because it is parallel to the axis of the cylinder. That is why it is called as axial thickness or ring width. Okay, so there are two types of thicknesses. One is radial thickness and another is axial thickness. And also, there are various type of ends available. There are various types of ring ends available. You need to understand that. See, these are the various types. They are called as butt type. They are called as scarf type. They are called as step type. Okay. Butt type means, as you know, the end when in the open, the ring when open, when it is not put onto the piston, it is going to be end to end. Mind you, the diameter of the ring will be larger than the diameter of piston, because after getting into the groove, they will be compressed. Okay, they will be occupying the space provided for the groove. Okay, so this is one end where both the ends are, but they face each other. This is basically called as scarf end, and this is called as step end. Let's have this idea. See, whenever I'm designing, I assume that the diameter of the piston is D. This is the radial width B. This is the axial thickness H. Okay. And G is called as the gap between the two. As you can see, this open end are basically scarf, as we have seen here. This type, it is the second one type, scarf gap. So first of all, when we start designing, हम लोग क्या करेंगे? We will be following this nomenclature. Okay, we will be using this notation. D, the diameter of piston. B is the radial thickness. H is the axial thickness, and G is the gap. When you are selecting the material for the piston ring, as we have seen in the previous table, that it is basically the gray cast iron. Okay, you have also seen there is a material alloy cast iron with with carbide and spheroidal cast iron, etc. Okay, they should have excellent wear resistance quality, and they should also act as a springing. They should also have some springing action. That is why, at high temperature, they should retain the spring characteristics, because they should be able to contract and expand during assembling and dismantling of the ring onto the piston. And in some of the cases, these are also chrome plated in order to reduce wear. This was about the selection of the material. As far as the number of piston rings are concerned, there is no any hard and fast rule, but the general practice is that there will be around 3 to 4 to 5, depending upon, there will be compression ring, and 1, 2, or 3, there will be oil scrapper ring. Okay, this is the thumb rule. In addition to this thumb rule, what is preferred? See, as a designer, you should know when you have two number of thick rings, then this thick rings will have more number of, this will have more area here. That is why it will result into more friction. On the contrary, if you have more number of thin rings, okay, thin rings will ensure less friction, and in addition to reducing friction, they will also ensure the sealing, better sealing. That is why, in addition to selecting the number of piston rings for any given application, the designer intend to select more number of thin rings rather than few number of thick rings. You understood? The designer select more number of thin rings rather than few number of thick rings. Okay, that is basically the idea. This is the thumb rule. Then, when the rings are designed, first of all, the dimension of the cross section. So this B, which is basically called the radial width or radial thickness, is designed by the formula B is equal to D times under root of K into PW by sigma T, where K is a constant which is basically selected as 3, which is basically kept as 3. Whereas PW is called as the radial pressure which acts on the cylinder wall. So PW is the wall pressure, radial wall pressure, and sigma T is the allowable tensile stress for ring material. Okay, so whatever material you have selected as cast iron or chrome plated cast iron or spheroidal cast iron, depending upon that, you have to calculate the sigma T ka value. You substitute here and this formula will get you B ka value. Okay, after the B is calculated, you have to select the radial this radial dimension, this dimension C, this radial thickness H. So the radial thickness was calculated from this formula, whereas the axial thickness is calculated, or it is taken as 70% to 100% of the P. It means the axial thickness H is taken as 0.7 to 1 time of the radial thickness. Okay, then this empirical relation further restrict the minimum axial thickness. Why? Because अभी हम लोगों ने discuss किया कि instead of selecting more number of thick rings, you can select instead of selecting few number of thick rings, you can select more number of thin rings. Then this particular formula gives you idea about as to how many number of rings you should select. So for that, suppose if you want to select, let's say Z number of rings, let's say for example 3, then this particular formula will give you idea about the number of rings to be selected as well as the thickness of each ring. Okay, so where D is the diameter of the piston, Z is the number of, let's say I'm having a piston in which the diameter is 120 millimeter, and let's say for example I'm selecting 3 number of rings. Okay, then I'm going to have this as how much? 4 millimeter. That means the thickness of the ring should be 4 millimeter. This is the, in this way you will be able to determine the minimum, you will ensure the minimum thickness of the ring. Next, when the ring is not inserted onto piston, the gap between the two ends is more. Okay, but when the ring is inserted onto piston, okay, in the groove, the gap is reduces. Okay, so that is why this particular empirical relation gives you idea about what should be the gap before assembly and what should be the gap after assembly. Okay, so the gap before assembly should be somewhere around 3.5 to 4B, which is the radial thickness, and after assembly this should be 0.002 to 0.004D. Okay, after assembly. Okay, now before going ahead, I would like to tell you another important assembly consideration in the piston. See, suppose there are, let's say, 3 number of rings. Okay. And this is, for example, the top view. Okay. And this is, suppose, the top view of the piston. Then what you do, you provide this open end, one end here, one end, if there is, suppose, if there are 2 rings, for example, then this one open end will be here and another open end will be here. And suppose if there are 3, then you will be providing this open end at an interval of 120 degrees. What is the reason, gentlemen, for this? Why not they should be in one line?
So then gas will directly flow towards the oil scraper.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely, very good. Then if all these gaps are in one line, okay, they will form a passage. They will form a passage, and the gas will flow by. Okay, that is why, in order to ensure proper sealing, this way the arrangement is made. Okay, very good. Now, once the thickness of the radial thickness and the axial thickness of the piston ring is determined, now you have to calculate, you have to determine the thickness of the top land H1 and the thickness of each ringland in the form of H2. So normally the thickness of the top land is taken as 1 to 1.2 times of thickness of piston head from this formula. And someone has written some message. Link is not active. I told you, Taibani, that I'm going to open it for at 12:55, 12:50. ठीक है? देखा, इतना इंस्ट्रक्शन देने के बाद भी पब्लिक बोलती है कि लिंक ओपन नहीं है and they are disturbing me. I told you I'm going to open this at 12:50. Just a minute. Let me open this. Now please try. I have already opened it. Okay. So H1 is calculated. The thickness of the top plane is calculated as 1 to 1.2 times of thickness of piston head, whereas the thickness of the ring land is calculated in terms of thickness of the axial thickness of the piston ring, which H2 is taken as 75% to 100%. Oh, sorry, 0.75 to 1 times of axial thickness of the ring, or 75% to 100% of the axial thickness. Okay. Please respond.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, after calculating the top length thickness and the ring length thickness, we need to calculate the barrel. Okay, barrel dimension. See, as I told you, barrel is basically the portion, okay, from the inner surface of the piston head to the end of the piston. This is called as piston barrel. Now, in the piston barrel, we need to calculate the thickness, okay, near the lower ring, which is called as a T3. So the thickness of the piston barrel here is called as here near the lower ring. So this is basically calculated by the empirical formula. T3 equals to 0.003D plus B plus 4.9. Mind you, where B is basically the radial thickness of the ring. Then the thickness of the barrel at the lowermost portion, T4, is calculated as 25% to 35% of the T3 thickness. 25% to 35%. So this way, the dimensions of the barrel are calculated.